good evening, and welcome to the Super License F1 podcast. My name's Rodney.
And my name is Zach.
Don't know if you've heard about this thing called window swap, Zach, but it's this thing that's taking the world by storm, where people all around the world go to this website called Window Swap, hit a button, and boom, you're looking out someone's window on the other side of the world, and it helps us in this isolation time. And I know you're traveling, so would you mind, please, looking out your window and painting a picture for us all of where you are?
Well, I tell you what, I can tell you what I'm hearing, which is a crying baby that I hope that you can't hear.
Not even mine.
A small, what I'm guessing is an Italian small baby who's been cradled by its mother, who is just screaming wildly, probably because the double espresso didn't come fast enough, or that the delicious brioche that has been filled with pistachio and ricotta cream was just too small. But other than that, 25 degrees, sunny, and looking out on a very small Italian village on the coastline. Sadly, no Italian Grand Prix for me to be in Italy and miss out on this weekend. However, next weekend, that will be the case.
But when are you flying back again?
Sunday. So during the Grand Prix in Italy, it will be on.
Interesting. Wonder if you'll actually still be in Italian airspace while the race is going on.
Maybe I'll ask the pilot or pilots or machine that probably flies the plane these days to fly over the racetrack and see what I can see. Him or her. Yes.
You didn't say him. I'm just being
probably
funny.
they.
Probably they. Probably them. They, them. Yeah. Zach, it was the Belgian Grand Prix. We're stalling because it was a shit show. But we will talk about the race very soon. I've got a super quiz coming up later, and we'll look at the fantasy league as always. But yeah, I just wanted to take advantage of the fact that you were abroad because it hasn't happened for a little while. And I know that that's kind of your thing. So I just wanted to make sure we captured some of that.
Yes, and I'm incredibly lucky to have been able to get out and be abroad and take a little bit of respite and relaxation. I've got all my masks. I'm taking all precautions. You know, I'm fit and well. And I know that doesn't mean that I'm not asymptomatic or something like that. But, you know, it's a very different kind of holiday, far more sitting in the Airbnb, looking out at the vista and doing outdoorsy things as opposed to going to small bars and restaurants in close contact, having interesting cocktails and spending time in museums and all that kind of stuff, which we would usually do. It's far more outdoorsy, which is not for me, Rod. You've seen my skin; it's so white. I practically glow in this sunlight when I'm outside. If I take my top off down at the beach, people are like, "Oh, that reflection! No, at eye level, what will we do about that white skin boy?" And I burn to a crisp in about 12 seconds. So even though I'm inside right now because there is a window with sunlight coming in, I'm covered in sunscreen.
That's brilliant. I love it. I just like you would probably get the sunburn from like a fluorescent bulb or something.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, you know those people have those lamps to wake them up in the morning that like do the UV and solar light in them. I can't have one of those. I get sunburnt before waking up.
It's like your kryptonite.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I'm very, very glad for you to be off in an exotic part of the world where here I'm mere days away from learning whether I'm allowed to leave my house or not. So that's great.
It's overrated, leaving your house.
You reckon? I don't know. I can handle a little bit of sun. Not much, but more than you by the sounds of it. Maybe we are going to get into the race. What do you say we get into a race or recap?
Can you call it a race? I suppose it was a race. Yeah, let's do that.
Let's recap whatever the heck happened.
Let us race a bit. I gave him space.
Suck my balls, mate.
Let's hurry up and get out of here. We got a race to do.
Zach, it was the Belgian Grand Prix
right?
Spa, my favorite one, and it did promise that the first lap was going to be good, and I predicted it probably would be. First few corners were pretty good. Sadly, though, it was a bit of a snoozer after that. I think that's the word around town anyway. But I'm going to have a look at this little button here, which will mark a 30-second timer, and I'm challenge you to sum up everything in the race in just 30 seconds.
Okay, I think I'm ready. This is going to be a tough one. I'm warming up.
It's going to take everything you've got. Okay.
Yes, ready.
Here's your time.
I always get tricked by this race, Rod, because they all fly off the line and then they're really slow coming into the first corner because it's like 150 centimeters away from the start. It was a really interesting start because we're like, oh my God, could the Renaults do something? And then maybe they didn't quite. And it was all kind of great for that first lap. And then Hamilton was gone. And then Bottas was kind of gone too. And Verstappen, we knew, couldn't really do much about that. So all eyes were on the rest of the field, which was really interesting. And, you know, unfortunately, we did kind of miss the Giovinazzi-Russell crash, which wasn't really them crashing as much as Giovinazzi crashing and Russell almost crashing into him too. And then that was kind of it. That's all that happened.
Yeah, very true.
That was bad.
Well,
that was a rough one.
You definitely didn't use one word when 10 would have done. Could say that. But you're a details guy, and I like that about you.
I just wanted to leave something for us to talk about for the next hour and a half or so that it will take to cover these 3 or 4 points that you have here.
Great. Yeah, we can stretch. I think the first thing to say, another dominant win from Lewis Hamilton. Pretty easy from pole to winning at what many people said were like, oh, this is their bogey track. If they have one, it's this one. Like, no. They were really kind of flying. I think there's a lot of mysterious stories out there. It's like unsolved mysteries or whatever. But I mean, certainly what was happening at the front was exactly what we were expecting. I want to talk about Valtteri Bottas quickly. He finished in P2 after a couple of races, which you'd have to say, like, converting pole into P3 and converting, front row starts into P3. He's done with that. He's finished. This is Bottas 3.0, 4.0, whatever we're up to now. And he's done with doing that, and he's back to finishing P2. I'm sure he's got his eyes on the prize of finishing second in the championship, because Maximilian Verstappen is still unbelievably ahead of him in the championship, which it just should not be in that car. No,
it shouldn't be. I mean, it was a little bit better from Red Bull this week with Albon putting in a slightly better bit of racing. It felt like, Albon down in 6th, Verstappen in 3rd, with 2, being split by the 2 very quick Renaults, which even Renault seemed to not be able to explain. They're like, how is good? But yeah, it was... Bottas would be very much feeling like this is how things should be all the time. I don't expect him to win if he can't take pole, which Hamilton just looks unbeatable on Saturday, right? It's hymns. It's hymns. Oh my God. Can you tell I'm on holiday? It's his to lose every Saturday. It would be, what I would love though, I feel like these races would be so much more interesting if the Mercedes didn't start from the front row every single weekend, because I think we're seeing the best of them. And, they did a lot of time management this weekend, and they could just kind of cruise their way all the way through the whole race, especially Lewis Hamilton. So it's disappointing because I feel like if they didn't start 1 and 2, or at least one of them on the front row, they would be forced to make some more strategic decisions. But for Hamilton, it's very much just like get out quickly, spend those first couple of laps eking out a more than 1 second lead so that you don't get caught by the DRS from whoever's challenging. And then it's kind of cruise from there. We're not seeing any of the mistakes that we might see from Mercedes, not making... They seem to be backing their conservative strategies, which means that they don't overthink it. They come in for the regular pit stops. They have nice 2.5, 3 second pit stops. They're not trying to do too much, regardless of what Lewis Hamilton is saying about how the factory is working incredibly hard, which I thought was a nice sentiment that he had after the race, and that everybody's pushing really hard to make new innovations and to make things happen. But I feel like they could do no more work on this car this year and they'd still win basically every race.
Yeah, Toto Wolff was commenting after the race how Lewis Hamilton reacts. Even though he's won, he still reviews the race and he still looks for all the little mistakes that he made. And he says he acts as though he finished in P15 or something. Also very... it was a very emotional race for a few reasons. One is that obviously Hamilton mentioned a couple of times by name the actor who died, and I'm going to embarrass myself by not remembering his name.
Chadwick Boseman.
I remembered Boseman, not the other one. He was a Bose man. He liked Bose headphones. But sadly, tragically passed away after a couple of years battling cancer, and he's standing, and the admiration that people had for him was enough for Lewis to feel affected and to dedicate the win to him. Obviously, the other one is Antoine Hubert, and there was a big moving tribute to his memory and legacy at the start of the race, and his family were there they held over his helmet and other stuff, stuff that sort of the thing that they didn't really matter as much as the gesture, the token, the thought that went into it. But it was an emotional weekend, and it was a good one for Lewis Hamilton to win because he had good vibes about that, and it was a good one for Pierre Gasly to win because he had good vibes driving with Anton Hubert in his heart. So maybe, I guess before we get into Gasly and Perez, we probably have to talk about the Giovinazzi and Russell crash, because that's kind of what led to the safety car, which led to the strategy calls. So Giovinazzi seems to just lose it, his car went a bit weird.
Yeah, he went a bit skew-if, catches the wall, tyres go flying, even the little tethers that keep the tyres on the car.
So I do want to talk about
in most circumstances, kind of get knocked off, and then Russell doesn't really have anywhere to go. It's funny because it kind of looks like Russell is not in supreme control of his car either, but I think that's partly because he sees the crash and starts to probably instinctively make a move, and his car is not in full control either. And he said, I'm pretty sure he said, this might be a misquote, but to paraphrase, I'm pretty sure he said, he felt good that he had the halo, because to have a wheel kind of bouncing around on the track or any kind of there was a lot of debris. It is a little bit safer to have the halo there and protect you from that kind of situation. I was a little bit nervous when the camera had both cars in frame sitting there, and neither of the drivers had got out yet. And I was like, what's going on? Why are they moving? And then, thankfully they both got out. They were both fine. No hard feelings, it seemed. Disappointing for Giovinazzi, obviously, and very disappointing for Russell, who was, again, kind of seemingly around P12. I remember, pushing there and thereabouts, pit stops notwithstanding and all the other kind of stuff. But not at the back, I suppose, is the key point there. And he just keeps finding a way to make that Williams look a little bit better than it actually is, which you and I have always said is the key characteristic of a great driver is to outperform the car. So he was bitterly disappointed, as I'm sure every Formula One driver is, because they all seem to love Spa and they love the challenge and the long lap and all that kind of stuff. Even if you're having a boring race, it's still interesting as the driver to get around Spa. So very disappointed, but very happy to see them both step away unscathed. What was your question or your thought around the fact that the tethers didn't keep the wheels attached?
Well, it was exactly that. If you think back over the last 6 or 7 years, can you think of many times when a tyre came off its tether and just flew around and did crazy stuff compared to probably the last maybe 12 months, maybe 18 months? I can think of 2 or 3 times where there's been a crash, the car's gone off and the tyre has just gone completely out into who knows where. I just feel, I don't know if there's anything to that, whether they've changed the system or something, but I just feel like for ages it didn't happen. It just did not happen. And then all of a sudden it's happening all the time.
Yeah. I wonder if there's other factors. I wonder if there's got something to do with the front wing, or I feel like someone like Matt Summerfield would be a good person to talk about this. But I wonder if there's changes somewhere else in the car that means the impact on the wheels is heavier when they do crash like this. So it just means that the tethers, they can't do everything, right? They've got to be attached to something that can still break. But yeah, interesting. It's weird.
It's amazing with those tethers too that they leave them on for the whole race, and when they finish, they jack up the car and the wheels spin backwards because they've been turning forward so much. It's crazy. You've got to really step back as well. It's fast.
Like my headphones at the end of a work day. I just continually twisted them all day. Every time I pick them up, I've half turned them, and then you unplug them at the end of the day and the cord just whips your eyes out as it tries to settle back into
That's why you need to wear glasses now. But anyway, that crash did lead to a safety car, and unfortunately, it was just so poorly timed that it meant that pretty much everybody stopped for hard tyres, and that was kind of it for strategy. The only 2 people that didn't do that were Pierre Gasly and Sergio Perez. So Gasly had qualified in P12, started the race on hard tyres, so it made good sense for him to not pit and just continue on, because it meant that he was in that position where he could just, if he wasn't conserving already, he could start conserving, but also he had track position because everyone else in front of him had pitted, and he just went, thank you very much. And then he could consolidate, and he went on to get onto some medium tyres towards the end of the race and passed a few cars, looked racy in that last phase, and
really racy.
Gobbled up P8. When you think about Gasly P8 and Albon P6, that's still better from Albon, but boy, he picked a good week not to finish, 9th or 10th, with Gasly right up there pressing into the mid of the points paying positions.
Yeah, you wonder if Gasly had a better qualifying setup and how things could have gone, because he did just look incredibly racy, really calm, really collected. We mentioned this a couple of times. Gasly at that AlphaTauri just seems like a good fit, and he's doing wonders to reinvigorate his career, because it can be so damaging just to take the step up to a leading team and then come back down when you're still in your early 20s. I think he's showing a lot of racecraft, I think, is probably the best way that I can think about it or say it. And I just like the way he's going about it. as well. You know, he seems calm, collected on what would have been a really emotional weekend for him. I loved his helmet as well, with all of the great photos ad hoc kind of photography of him and Hubert and other friends and young racers at the time. So, would have been an emotionally charged weekend for him. He put in a really, really good performance. And, you know, watching what is a Honda powered car, you know, they're looking really quick. And maybe that's just in comparison to something like the Ferrari powered cars. But I think, again, I'd look at a race like this and say, you know, no big engine failures for Honda, or really for anybody, really. And they look racy. I would say that all the engines in Formula One, except for Ferraris, are looking pretty snazzy. And it's good that someone like Gasly doesn't have to really look at reliability or look down at his car and be like, I wish it was faster or stronger. It's just like, no, it's just me, and I can improve on this performance of the team. So I'm really happy for Gasly.
Yeah, someone brought up the question, you know, they've given Albon more of a chance than they even gave Gasly, and Albon arguably hasn't delivered anything that's worth keeping him there for, which I don't know that I necessarily agree with, but I think there was an interview with Albon, and they asked him, kind of basically put the question to him this way. It was a bit of a leading question. You know, when you went from AlphaTauri or Toro Rosso back then to Red Bull, the comment was, Red Bull as a car is so much faster, but it is so much more difficult to drive. It's just every element of driving it is difficult. You get the performance, but you have to do so much more work. And then driving the AlphaTauri, or, you know, the old Toro Rosso, was so easy, but it was slow. And that's always the old dichotomy in F1. A fast car is never easy to drive, although unless you're in a Mercedes, I guess. But I guess I keep that in mind when I look at Gasly just cruising up and finishing in P8, thinking, oh, he made it look easy. Maybe that car just is easy to drive. And, you know, I mean, obviously you still need to be able to perform in whatever car you're in. That's kind of what you're there to do. But, I mean, I keep that in mind when I think about, like, why isn't Albon just able to do better than Gasly? Why can't he just do it? It's probably not quite that easy. But I mean, again, it's, you know, what a problem to have, right?
Yeah, exactly. Albon, I don't know what else to really say about this. I think we mentioned a couple of podcasts ago that Albon's probably pretty lucky that this is a weird COVID-affected season for his career, that he can probably blank this one and just be like, look, I turn up, don't race poorly. You know, Helmut Marko and Christian Horner at Red Bull have both said that he's doing fine, you know, and that Verstappen is really special and probably outperforming the car, and Albon's probably doing about what the car can do. That's probably not good enough at this level, you know, from Albon. Don't know what else is going on in his life. Maybe the car's not set up perfectly for him. I doubt it would be. And he's still coming to grips with it. And it's because of the compact nature of the season, even when he feels like he might be getting to grips with it, it's probably not till the end of Sunday. And then it's like, all right, we're off to another race. There'll be new changes, new track. Suddenly, everything changes again. And he's still inexperienced. So, no, I think that as long as he's not having really poor races, you know, as long as he's finishing, I would say about P6 is about par for him at this stage, because seemingly at every race, there's one of the, you know, mid-tier to lower-tier teams finds something on that weekend, whether it's they find something in the setup that works, something about the track works, something about their strategy works, that those positions between kind of 4, 5, 6, 7, another team is going to find one of their races in one of those positions that can kind of push Albon down. It's just disappointing that Albon can't find himself in fourth more often. It's the Bottas problem. You know, why can't he put together a really thoroughly excellent race weekend consistently? But I think that's just down to, the car is hard to drive and he's still relatively inexperienced.
Yeah, it's a good point. Speaking of points, we'll come to Racing Point, which was, I wanted to talk about Sergio Perez in particular because of the non-standard strategy that he was on. Qualified in P8, and then ended up in P10. So he started on the medium tyres, and then after the safety car, when everyone else was pitting for hards, he was like, nah, or his team, I should say, was no. He didn't seem to say one way or another what he wanted. I guess they were maybe thinking, you could just stretch out your medium tyres for a lot longer, couldn't you? And it turned out he couldn't. After a few laps, when the field was all bunched up and he lost his chance of getting in a cheap pit stop, he ended up having to pit and came out last. But I mean, even aside from that, Stroll was in P10 and Stroll was in P9, Perez P10. Yeah, Mercedes up there at 1-2. I mean, everyone makes that point of like, oh, you guys are just driving a pink Mercedes. Well, how come they were so slow? I don't get it.
Yeah, obviously something about their aero setup or their whole setup just wasn't working very well for them. I think it's partly that are we all sitting here saying that Sergio Perez and Lance Stroll are the most talented guys on the track? You read down these standings for the race result, and I would argue that Verstappen, Ricciardo, Ocon, Albon, Norris, Gasly, I would say they're all probably better drivers than Stroll and Perez. So that doesn't surprise me immensely. It's not like there's a huge difference in times as well, as far as when you kind of go down from Ocon all the way down to Perez. They're not separated by a huge interval. So it was kind of close through the whole race. So nip and tuck, those kinds of strategies get knocked off course a little bit for Perez. It didn't work out as well as probably he'd hoped or what they planned for. So it doesn't look great. But yeah, there is, I said this a couple of weeks ago, there's a spot for Racing Point, kind of position 4 and 5 every weekend. That should be about where they're aiming for. And I know that's probably being a little bit reductive, but that's, if I was, Lawrence Stroll at Racing Point as the owner there, or, essentially the owner, I'd be like, yeah, anything that's less than that is a disappointing race weekend. So, there's something else going on there.
Yeah, speaking of something else going on there, Mercedes obviously did pretty well here, but then right behind them, and, not a million miles away, Red Bull with the Honda engine, and then right up there in performance as well, for some reason, Renault came good after I took them out of my fantasy team. Thanks very much, guys. But claiming
that's
fourth,
why.
That's what it is. Claiming 4th and 5th, Daniel Ricciardo claiming the fastest lap on the last lap to claim for the team, to put in their bank. There you go. To deposit 23 interest growing points in their dollar saver account. So, good week for Renault, basically, is what I'm trying to say. It's probably the best weekend in years.
Yeah, where do you think that's come from? As I said at the beginning, it seemed to somewhat surprise them, but they knew, I suppose they knew coming into Sunday they had some race pace because the qualifying was good, and their practice sessions were good, their long run speed was good. I think they were probably just expecting, if nothing really happened in the race and they could kind of run their own race, I know we say that often, that they'd be pretty confident that they could keep that pace alive and keep it going. They're pretty reliable right now. What do you think where did that fastest lap come from?
Obviously their power unit is not that bad, and you get, every circuit has different characteristics. This is obviously one where there are some sectors where if you've got low drag, you're going to go pretty well, and then in other sectors you won't. So just a magic combination this week, I think, of having a decent engine, but a setup that was just perfectly in the sweet spot for this track. And it seems like if you do well at this track, you're probably going to do well at the next track, which brings us to the next team in a second, which is not going to be such a nice talking point. But yeah, the other option is perhaps, obviously Red Bull was still right there, like they always have been, with Racing Point out of the way, with McLaren out of the way. Who else was going to be there? It was always going to be Renault that was next in line to gobble up those positions and points. So just a little bit of a combination of things coming to them a little bit without them actually doing anything specifically, but also other teams just not showing up.
Where did Sainz finish in qualifying? He's finished in 7th. It would have been interesting to have him racing. Obviously, he had an exhaust problem and he couldn't make it to the grid. That might have put something, cat amongst the pigeons a little bit, maybe between Albon, Ricciardo, Ocon, that kind of thing. A good start from Sainz might have changed things up. I think Ricciardo getting a good start and keeping a bit of track position, he found himself in 3rd/4th through those first couple of corners, and he didn't Ricciardo the start or Webber the start, as it were. Meant he could kind of hold on to that leading pack. We got a little bit of split between him and Ocon towards the last kind of third of the race, because Ricciardo was very much looking at the leaders as opposed to having to look over his shoulder, which I think can be really helpful when you're not having to defend so much these days. You can kind of look after your own tyres and kind of race on your own terms. But if you're kind of stuck in that midfield battle, you see it every week. That's why the joke is that Lando Norris makes so many positions towards the end, because everybody's like really fighting hard towards the end of the race, and if your tyres have slipped off just a little bit, then you're a sitting duck. So you don't want to be having to defend in the last kind of 5 to 10 laps of a race these days. Yeah. So it was probably much better for Ricciardo to just nicely have to sit in 4th. He was never really having to challenge Verstappen after that first little set of, after the first pit stop, that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm sure he was just happy to get to go after the fastest lap. Apparently, I think I heard on the radio, Cyril Abiteboul was like, I didn't want you and the team to do that, but I'm glad you did, which is if that doesn't sum up Renault and Cyril Abiteboul, I
And
don't
Cyril
know what else
Abiteboul.
does.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
We might be learning a little bit more about him during the Superquiz. But anyway, the other team and the other power unit provider is Ferrari, who, let me just read my notes verbatim. Ferrari need a hug. Their car is a slug. There's tension with one of their drivers. Both drivers are trying to drive and determine their strategy at the same time. They got slow pit stops, reliability problems, and both cars were beaten by Kimi Raikkonen in the Alpha, which has the same power unit. Zach, what the fuck is going on with Ferrari?
I have no fucking clue. And I was reading through the race result again, and I was like, where are the other Ferrari-powered cars? And it's not just Raikkonen beating both of them. It's that Grosjean is just behind Leclerc as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's not nice at all, and I wonder where Giovinazzi would have finished. It's looking bad, and it's weird that Ferrari aren't really freaking out. Binotto's like, it just wasn't our weekend, and we'll kind of sort it out. There was pictures of him and Carlos Sainz chatting this race weekend, and you're like, oh, poor Carlos Sainz must be like, this is just this season, right? You've got a fix in mind, because my McLaren's not bad, and maybe I should be looking elsewhere. And you've got plans for after 2021, right? You've got new Concord Agreement plans that will fix this car up. Because it was terrible. And Leclerc multiple times, it was just like, even after qualifying, it was like, that was the best I could get. Like, this car is incredibly slow. There was a chance during qualifying that didn't look like they were going to make it out of Q1, which would have been insane. And there was points during the race as well where I was like, if their strategy is as bad as I know it can be at Ferrari, they could finish last. Both cars last, because they just had no power. Cars were just driving around the outside of them, in overtaking moves every time. And there was almost no fight at all from Ferrari, which is a bad sign. We didn't even get a spin from Vettel, which means the car isn't even powerful enough to put him under any pressure that even he can drive it. It's too slow to spin. And as you said, they are, especially Sebastian is kind of seemingly writing his own strategy or arguing about strategy about we shouldn't overtake or we should, or I don't think we should pit now. And you want a little bit of back and forth.
And this happened to Vettel last race or a few races ago, where they were like, we're choosing between two strategies. We'll let you know soon. And he was like, guys, they're two different strategies and I have to drive differently depending on what you tell me. So make it snappy, because the longer you leave it, the worse my chances are. And the same thing happened with Leclerc this race, where they were like, we're not sure, either push or don't. And he was like, guys, what the hell? What do you mean either push or don't? Fuck me. It's not good.
They should be panicking at Ferrari. And, we're coming into Monza, the speed demon circuit, and they have absolutely nothing. I mean, thank God that there's not going to be 100,000 fans there, whistling them and telling them that they're horrible and asking for Kimi Raikkonen to come back, or Fernando Alonso even. It's a bad situation. I just don't know I can't really explain this really big change in performance. Like, they haven't been great, but we're talking about Charles Leclerc's been on the podium this year. How could they fall off this badly? Maybe their engine really was cheating last year by a lot. Maybe that was a really big problem that's been made to disappear, and they just lost all advantage there.
Yeah, or at least it was masking some other problems that were, obviously,
some aero problems.
They've had engine changes, but those the problems with their setup were being masked by having a decent engine, a powerful engine. Let's say.
And look, I have to say, I don't know much about their technical setup right now. I don't know how people rate technically the chassis and the body of that car and how it deals with downforce and those kinds of things. That's a level of detail that is just a little bit beyond me. But at this stage, it doesn't look like there's anything going right for them. There's nothing really hooking up. And as you said, to have an Alfa Romeo in Kimi Raikkonen, who's handy. He's a handy driver, but he's also 4,000 years old. And I know he was basically born on Spa. It seems like it's like his perfect track and he loves it. But still, you would expect them to be able to get past, essentially a customer team. So they should be freaking out, and I'm surprised they aren't.
Well, maybe internally they are. I guess there's a couple of bits of news. We don't really do news anymore, but it would have been a great week to have done news. It wouldn't have been perfect, because we can talk about a couple of things. So one note that I have here in particular is that the Concord Agreement has been signed, which is all the teams have to sign the Concord Agreement. It's basically the agreement that everybody will race and get paid. So there's all sorts of stuff in there that determines where the money goes. And historically, the way that they've worked that out is they've taken all the money that Formula One has gotten from running races and from selling TV rights and all that stuff. They put all in a big pile. Ferrari comes up and takes a big wheelbarrow just for being Ferrari. Then there's a bunch more wheelbarrows that are for teams that have been around for a little while. Ferrari gets another cut from that. And then the rest is split evenly among the teams, including Ferrari, unbelievably. So thankfully, a lot of that seems to have been gone with this Concord agreement, which is really, really good. A lot of the so-called legacy payments are gone. Still, if you win the championship, you're going to get more money than the team that finished last. But at least you're not, pocketing, an extra 50% just because. And especially, the gap, or I should say the arrival bonus, the participation bonus that Ferrari used to get is a lot smaller. They are still getting one, and whispers are that they're still the only team that are getting one out of anybody. And they still retain this ridiculous veto power where changes can be vetoed by the team, which is fucked. But look, it's a step forward. It's a couple of years long. Here's hoping in, 5 years or whenever the next one is, they can iron out even more of this. But that's one bit of news. Anything that you wanted to, any thoughts on that?
I think it's good that it is a 5-year agreement, I'm pretty sure. And that means that, all the teams that are in Formula One right now feel secure enough that they can sign up to a contract of 5 years and be like, yeah, we want to be here, or at least in this form similarly enough for the next period. It would have been frustrating if someone like Mercedes was like, nah, we're going to go do something else. So no, I think that's good. It's interesting because I don't think Ferrari's got anywhere else to go. It doesn't make sense for them to go to Formula E or to WEC, for example, or something like that. As far as like sporting brilliance, Formula One is their only option. And I think, interestingly, Formula One is probably looking at this now and being, with new owners and especially American-focused owners are a bit like, well, fine to have Ferrari in here and they're good for the brand and all that kind of stuff, but their influence is waning. And I think that is borne out here. They can't just kind of roll up and be like, we're the kings of F1, because people start to go, especially I'm sure younger fans start to be like, when did you last do something really cool and interesting? Like, when were you really good again? It's a bit like me when I started really watching Formula One and being like, Williams, why do people talk about Williams so much? Who is this team? And it's like, they were the greatest. They were the shit. But since, I haven't seen that. So maybe Formula One is possibly in some small way outgrowing Ferrari and finding new ways to kind of invigorate their sport that is outside of just the red team, and moving a little bit away from the Schumacher legacy, and moving into new interesting energy drink driven fields and pastures.
Yeah, exciting, innovative new ways to sell energy drinks. I think you're right. I think this is a step away from that whole Formula One is Ferrari mindset, just breaking free of that and being like, we are a sport first, and if you do well in the sport, you will do well, period. And that's how it should be. The other bit of news, which I teased but haven't got a note for, was Williams. So I'm glad you brought them up, just them being sold because they've been on the auction block for a little while, picked up by
we looked at buying them, right?
Yeah, well, I looked at it. I checked my bank account and went, pretty sure I need to pay rent to pay the mortgage this month. So no, sorry, no can do. Everyone's calling them the Doritos company or whatever the fuck the name is, because no one can remember what the real name is. It doesn't mean anything. It's going to be revealed very soon who is behind that. It's a sort of a conglomerate deal. And apparently there's, the only thing that people know is there's some family that is contributing all the money and they now own the team. So we'll find out very soon who that is. But until we do, it's not really worth even talking about, who it is. The thing is, what's going to happen with the team? And the good news is they're sticking around. They're still going to be called Williams, but just no longer owned by the Williams family. So that's a dynasty that has come to an end of some sort. I guess all eyes probably now turn to Claire Williams to say, okay, now that your dad doesn't own the team anymore, how long will you be around if the team continues to underperform? That's the question.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure there would be the new owners would have a succession plan in place of like, cool, let's go this season and maybe the next season and see where things go and bring some more staff in, all that kind of stuff. I think you can look at things like Racing Point and the way they're moving. The new owners always want to get their own people because they want to be able to, WhatsApp them quickly and be like, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? Well, they do. I'm not joking. That's kind of it. They want to have the reason you buy a thing is because you think there's an opportunity to change the way it's run and the way it performs. And you think you've got those ideas and you've probably got people in place. There's no point in buying Williams and it's being like, we think you're doing a great job, actually. We just think you could do with some more money. That's probably not going to fix Williams. It definitely doesn't fix Ferrari. You need good people in the place. And that's not saying that Claire Williams is not the right person.
No, I think that's an important point to make.
It's more about saying, could they use more people and change the structure of the business maybe? It's probably been a similar structure for a long time now. And Formula One's probably changed a bit too much around Williams. So they need to fix that structure up and take some learnings from some other teams and maybe some outside of F1 business situations to make some changes there. And I hope they improve because, I want to see Latifi win some races, man. That's all I want.
Yep. That's why everyone tunes in on a Sunday afternoon to watch some F1 is to see Latifi win a race. Yeah. There's no reason why Williams can't improve and Claire Williams can't stick around. There's absolutely no reason why that can't happen. It's just my concern would be that she's been a little bit protected to date. And that protection to some degree is now gone. And it's also not to say, if they finish last for the next 2 or 3 years, that she'll definitely go. Because if they can recognize some good that she's done and just for circumstances, things haven't improved the way they wanted it to, that doesn't mean she's necessarily to blame for where they are. It's just, sometimes you've just got to shake the tree as well. But yeah,
Claire Williams cares incredibly, a huge amount about Williams and their legacy of Formula One. And she would do whatever it takes to make this team better. Yeah. If that means changing her role, if that means stepping aside, if that means taking different responsibilities on, if it means moving the pieces around and still running the thing, whatever it takes, I think she will do. And I don't think she would have taken the sale lightly. No way.
No, that's true. That's another thing. Well, look, I think that's about as much juice as we're going to get out of the Spa Orange. So let's move on to the fantasy focus, where we're going to look at the race and we're going to look at the league.
I haven't looked at my points this week.
Well, I've got the top 3 here for the race. So kicking off, starting, we'll go 3, 2, 1. So in third place, Team Danos Bananos, manager by Dano Banano, which is pretty good. Position 2, Eyes Up Auto Art by Zachary Carroll, the other good Zach, sorry mate. And in position number 1 for Belgium, Tertiary Racing by Tertiary Racing Management Conglomerate. Well done to all of you guys. I know that my position this race was pretty much midfield, and that's probably why I haven't moved from the front of the back markers in the league. It explains why, because you're sort of treading water when you finish midfield. Do you have any idea how you went while I pull up the league results?
I've got the league results here now whilst you're talking. I pulled them up. So currently winning the league is Romeo e Giulietta from Vincitore. 1,067 points. I think
incredible.
He's cracked the 1,000 mark, and so has Team Blue and Gold Racing with Lee Boy O'Donnell on 1,003 points. So both the first 2 people in our league to crack the 1,000, the 1K, the grand mark. Congratulations, both of you. What race are we up to? Are we halfway through the season yet? Is that race?
This is race 7, and there's 17. Oh, that's the other bit of news we didn't cover, but anyway, we'll do that next time.
Oh, we'll come when we finally turn up at those races. We can talk about how they found them themselves on the calendar and how the Turkey Grand Prix is selling their tickets for €3, and they think they're going to get 100,000 people to the race.
Goodness me,
isn't that crazy?
Them. Anyway.
And Hypothesis from Hypothesis Racing, 997 points, currently in third, and looking like they're probably, Rod, I think they could crack 1,000 points next week. They might do it.
Yeah, they're in striking range. I am sitting in 39th in the league on 806 points. So that's 6 better than 800. Probably another race or 2 away from the grand, though.
Yeah, I mean, what's it like being on the second or third page? Because I'm currently on page number 1 in position 25. Raised 2 positions, got myself off page number 2, onto page number 1. Rod, 867 points for me. Read it and weep, my friend.
Well, we'll see. So I do have a new secret strategy. Unfortunately, this week, I just can't tell whether it's working or not. I need a few more races. By the end of the season, I will have worked out whether my risky strategy has paid off or not. So I'll either be last or first, but we'll see.
Pierre Gasly for each
Latifi all the way, baby. 1,001 shot, baby. I'm pretty sure I get a 5 times multiplier if he wins a race. So let's fingers crossed that it buckets down sideways hail. That's Magello. That's the fantasy focus. Zach, should we get into the super quiz this week?
Yes, please.
That was just a trick question. I was going to do it anyway.
We will accept a couple of questions.
Should one only win one? Would one want to have won that one in round one?
Can you repeat the question?
I'll repeat the question for you, Zach. The question is, Cyril Abiteboul who?
Oh,
Cyril Abiteboul.
I like it.
Who? So let me introduce things this way. This weekend for the race, during practice, during interviews, during the actual race or qualifying, nobody could shut up about the fact that the Renault drivers and Cyril Abiteboul have a wager going where if they finish on the podium, the result will be Cyril needing to get a tattoo. Now that actually isn't that big a deal for Cyril because he in fact has got more than 12 tattoos on his body. Can you believe that?
Whoa, that's almost as many points as you got in the Formula One Fantasy Focus this week. 12?
Almost
that
as
was
many.
about right.
Yeah, that's also not true, which he actually doesn't have any tattoos on his body.
Oh, damn.
You also believe that, which proves my point that no one knows anything about Cyril Abiteboul. I don't know how many tattoos he has. I just made all that up. But anyway, it proves my point. Nobody knows anything about this guy, so it's time that we fix that with this week's Cyril Abiteboul Who quiz. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 6 big questions for you. It's a bit of a silly one, but we're going to learn a bit more about Cyril Abiteboul. Are you ready?
I'm ready to Cyril Aboot this home.
Aboot at home, baby. Okay, question number 1. According to a 2012 blog post by Jose with 5000, Cyril was educated at the Lycée Carnot and the Lycée Chapitre, which are schools in which city?
Wow. Paris seems too easy. I'm going to say it's Lyon.
No, go easy. Paris, France. France.
Paris, France.
Paris,
France.
Paris Français. That's probably not Francais, is it?
No, that's French. So I don't know. What do they call their own country? France.
According to Jose, with those schools produce, quote, the best and the Bertists. He tried to type brightest, but got it wrong. So do better, Joe. Obviously no spell check back in 2012 for Joe. Anyway.
He's still writing on a typewriter. You know this.
Yeah, that's very true. Question number 2. Which of the following is an anagram of Cyril Abiteboul's name? Ebola lubicity, Ariel cubby toil, Clue oily rabbit, or Hennet's horn rick?
I think it's the second one. What was that one? Nipple?
Ariel cubby toil.
Ariel cubby toil. That's the one I'm going with.
That is correct. Actually, the first 3 are all anagrams of Cyril Abiteboul's name, and Hennet's horn rick is an anagram of Christian Horner.
Damn it! More like Hairnet Horns Verstappen. If we know
Exactly. Am I right? Question number 3. Besides Renault and brackets and Lotus, which other F1 team has Cyril worked for? No longer around. R.I.P. in pieces.
R.I.P. This team. Who else would he have worked with? Were there any other French teams? Who did Renault work with? Was it? How old is he? He's pretty old. Could he have worked
43?
With... Yeah, okay. Not that old then. I'm going to guess, did he work at Jaguar?
Sorry, no, it's not BMW Jaguar. It was Caterham.
Oh, of course.
I went there for like 2 years. He's a Renault journeyman, and he's been there for ages, except for 2 years where he left to run Caterham.
Yes. It was his first big team principal role.
That's him. I'll tell you, it was hard to scratch together a quiz about him because he's so boring. Anyway, I'll try. In 2017, Cyril commented on some regulation changes at the time and suggested that smaller teams would struggle. In response, Force India team owner Vijay Mallya said that he wanted to make Cyril eat his what? This is a question, as a multiple choice. Cyril told him to eat his nuts, eat his tie, eat his words, or eat his lunch.
I hope it's lunch. You can eat my lunch.
Eat my lunch.
I'm Vijay Mallya, and I probably stole that lunch with tax money. I paid for that lunch with stolen taxes, something like that. Wow, really getting all the jibes in this weekend. You'd think I'd be more relaxed on holiday. I'm going to say he could eat his tie, because what else?
Well, it could be the right answer, which was words, not nuts or tie or lunch. Eat my nuts. So that's a pretty Vijay Mallya thing to say.
That's a very Kevin Magnussen thing to say.
Words. He said, I'm going to make him eat his words, and I'm going to sign Sergio Perez, and I'm going to win everything. And he kind of did. Okay, moving on. So, proving that he can also talk shit about the big dogs, what did Abiteboul claim Red Bull were doing after switching from Renault engines to Honda engines?
They were cheating. They were
kind of
trying to.
You're closer than I thought you would get.
Huh.
Cheating about what specific thing though? Like in what way?
Were they cheating on their contract? They were cheating on Renault. They were like, they're cheating on us, our beautiful romantic relationship. No?
You're sort of close-ish. I knew this would be a hard one because it's a bit esoteric or whatever. Yeah, but he said that they were, in fact, hiding the facts about how good the Honda PU was, which I guess he knows because presumably they were doing that when Renault were providing power units and they were making them look better, or saying, it's really good, except maybe it wasn't so good. So he's like, well, yeah, you used to lie when we were together. Now you're in bed with these other bozos and you're probably lying about that as well.
He's so salty, and so jaded, Cyril Abiteboul. These are the only things that I know about Cyril. Salty and jaded.
He has a permanent dour expression on his face, more or less. It's so hard to find photos of him smiling or even just information about him. But anyway, this is the last factoid of information that I could find about him. And I'm saying factoid using that word in the correct way. According to one website that I found, Cyril Abiteboul has 3 nicknames. Can you name any of them?
Sirio, like some sort of pirate. What's all this about? That's his other one. So he's known collectively and funnily as the Canadian before the Canadians actually got involved.
Yes, of course.
I know they're not the first Canadians in Formula One. I know, blah, 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 Villeneuve. Don't at me. And then the last one is he is the... he really reminds me of like a mongoose. He's the mongoose.
Why does he remind you of a mongoose?
Yeah, because he can take snakes down. He can chase them around. He knows what's up. He's not going to be scared off by some snakes in F1. He stares them down. He's like, I'm the mongoose. I can take you on. Snakes.
Very good. Unfortunately, none of those are correct. And I mean, take this with a grain of salt, but this is the website that I found. Apparently, his 3 nicknames for Cyril Abiteboul are Abiteboul, Cyril, and Cyril Abiteboul.
No, right. Well, I mean...
How shit are you? How boring are you that your nickname is also just your name?
Look, I'm not a guy with a nickname that I'm aware of. Maybe people call me things behind my back. It's when you got a good name, you don't tend to get nicknames.
You're not lying, Zacko. Freestar. Zippo. What about Mr. Zeep? You go by that?
Yeah, but that's self-given. No one came up to him and was like, you there, Mr. Zeep. Yeah, that was...
What about all the things
question?
that people yell at you from trucks while they drive past you?
Yeah, no, they're just generally wolf whistles. Generally wolf whistles, that's what I get.
Wolf whistles.
Yeah, they're like... And then they're like, oh, actually, no. It was just his big bum we were whistling, and then it turned out it's not what we saw his face and we went, ugh.
Like that episode of The Simpsons when Skinner's bending over to tie his shoes. Anyway, and Bart's about to throw the tomato. Anyway, yeah, wow, that really went places. Now you know a little bit more about Cyril Abiteboul. You'll say Cyril Abiteboul no longer. Oh, you mean the mongoose? That's what Ricardo should get him to tattoo on his body when he gets his.
Yeah, honey badger and mongouse. That's the ultimate duo.
Yep. We'll tweet that at him and make that happen. Zach, look at that. Bloody hell. The podcast is nearly over. Time for our final thoughts, my friend.
Yeah, I've got one. I usually kick us off, and I'm ready this time.
Okay.
This is me saying I was really wrong. I didn't think we'd get like 8 races of a Formula One season this year. We got 17, which is about what we want in a season anyway, to give people, if this was a normal season, 17, 18 races would be like, yeah, everybody gets a rest. It's not race. Who tweeted this? Maybe, I can't remember. Oh, I'm so sorry to whoever tweeted this, but it was like, when every race is race weekend, none of them are race weekend, which is kind of how it feels right now, that it's unending, which is great. But it does mean we're going to have 2 races at Abu Dhabi this season. I think, right? Is that right? Which is, wow, what a delight. Hopefully we get fireworks at both races. As Hamilton crosses the line, having won the world championship, I don't know, 3 months earlier. So yeah, that was my final thought. I was really wrong. I thought we'd barely get 8 races together. Turns out we've got 17. And look, they're adding new ones every week. You know, we'll find out. We're going to finish with 3 races in Melbourne as well.
No.
Or, we'll be racing in December, January. There'll be no mid-season. There'll be no break between the seasons.
No.
It'll be the 2020-2021 season of 44 races.
No. This is it. There won't be more than 17. But I mean, like you say, they still have to run these races. Things could happen. This is 2020 after all. I thought that we'll probably get to maybe 8. We'll probably scratch together 8. It's been amazing. I mean, the most amazing thing really is that like the big fear was, what if a driver gets COVID? And that happened.
And it just means,
you know what happened was
Nico
like
Hülkenberg gets to race.
Yeah,
it means
like
that we
not
would have
even
seen
about.
Nico
I'm not even
Hülkenberg
mad.
again.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, well done F1. It just seems like nothing's going to bring it down. If that doesn't bring it down, ain't nothing going to break its stride. Well, I guess I should pony up with a final thought. Oh yeah, on the number of races, I was looking up races, looking up seasons that had 17 races, and it turned out that there's been a few. It's like a graph. Like if you go right back, they had like 8 races a season. It just sort of steadily sort of ticks up, and then it goes down, then it ticks up right up to where we are now with 20, 21, 22 races. But it turns out that in the 2017 race season, we had 20 races, and in the 2020 season, we're going to have 17 races. So that's a good easy way to remember it. Yeah, am I right? Conspiracy.
Did you try to make a quiz out of seasons that had 17 races?
Maybe. They're boring, though. Boy, it's boring to do that.
I know that feeling.
Yep. So who won the championship in 2009? And also who won the championship in 2002? These are all the seasons with 17 races, and it sucked.
But look at the colours of the flags of all the people who finished on the podium. What colour is not included in their flags? Is it green? Is it blue? Is it purple?
Yeah, I do remember that. That was good. That's good stuff. Yeah, I mean that was a thing that I thought. I don't know if it's my final thought. Let me see if there's anything else in the mental grab bag.
In your mind palace, Rod's mind palace.
Exactly, correct. We covered Cyril Abiteboul's boring. Did we cover that?
We devoted a whole quiz to it.
Ah, very good. Very good. Oh, here's the thing. I was looking through tweets. I was like, I'm pretty sure I tweeted something recently that I was like, yeah, final thought there. Albon, has he ever passed anyone on the inside? Has he ever done that? Show me
good
proof.
question.
I don't believe it until I see proof. Pixar, it didn't happen.
I have
He's
a
an
question
outside.
about
He's
that,
Mr.
actually.
Outside.
I was going to look this up and I forgot about it. Has Romain Grosjean overtaken anybody this season?
Look, I can neither confirm nor deny that he was even in a race.
But when you think about it, there's a chance that he hasn't overtaken anyone outside of the start, right? Outside of getting off the line. Is there a chance that Romain Grosjean...
Look, you're right.
That's my new conspiracy theory. He's never overtaken anyone, actually.
I'm not here to
That's
say
my
you're
theory.
wrong. I'm saying you're right.
Yeah.
Big rumour is that Perez or Hülkenberg are going to Haas, depending on what happens at Racing Point.
Depending on who, what's-his-face kills first.
Yeah, and then if you want to get extreme about it, if you want to go to Rob James about it, it's like, you know what they're going to do? They're going to dump Magnussen as well, and it's going to be Vettel and Perez there.
Wow. Then who will race it? Who's going to be at Racing Point then?
Oh, so sorry. What did I say? Vettel? No. So it'll be Hülkenberg and Perez. Forget Vettel. He's at Racing Point. So Vettel to Racing Point. Perez chucked on the scrap heap. Haas comes along. Some scrap. I'll have that. Get rid of this other scrap that we've got in Grosjean. But then double twist. Get rid of Magnussen as well and slot in Hülkenberg. That's what I'm saying.
Well, yeah. Well, future Formula E champion Kevin Magnussen, I'm sure, will be fine with that. And none of us will remember that he moved there and probably won 3 championships and will probably win at Le Mans 24 in a couple of years as well.
Yeah.
Good luck to Kevin Magnussen. I look forward to Romain Grosjean's cooking shows that I will watch that will exclusively be on Amazon Prime.
Do you think you'll have the mongoose as a guest?
God, I hope so.
That might be a secret ingredient. You've got like one of those big silver things. He lifts it up. Boom, mongoose with an apple in his mouth. Guess what you're cooking, Cyril?
It's honey badger.
Cooking yourself.
Oh, delicious. I don't think that if Vettel goes to Racing Point, that him and Lance Stroll will ever exchange a single word. I think Lance will be like, hey, Seb, and Seb will walk past. We'll just never look him in the eye. They will never shake hands. They will never speak to each other. Like ships passing in the night. Sebastian Vettel, Lance Stroll.
Oh boy. Well, you heard it here first, and I endorse it. Well, look, I mean, we've definitely outstayed our time. We do have one last note here, which we're not going to have time to get to. How are we going to get Formula One into the Olympics? Oh, no, we've run out of time. Zach, we'll have to hold that over.
There's a whole show.
Future.
No, that's one for the season break. In the 12 minutes that we have between the two seasons this year.
Yes, exactly. All right. Well, that wraps it up for this week then. Thank you so much for listening. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say, thank you to everyone who's supporting us in the Super License Club. The plans for bonus content this year just went completely fucking out the window. But hey, there's been 7 races and we've done something like 20 episodes. So, I mean, look, it is bonus content. Everybody's getting it. Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for your
We've
support.
got stuff in the pipipeline, and we
definitely
really appreciate you sticking with us through this time because
sticking to our bodies.
Different lockdowns impacting different people, doing all kinds of things at once. This season is a very weird one for us, and we've got good plans for next season as well. That might be news to you, Rod. It's definitely news to me. No, we've got things that we want to do.
Can't wait to hear about these great plans that I've got.
Yeah. So
really
can you open the Google Doc and have a look? We're going to do silent podcasts, only video from now on. Finally pivoting to video,
Well, there might
Rod.
be something like that. We might do something like that. But anyway,
exactly.
Literally, I was reminded because I got a server build today. So that's all covered thanks to you guys. And again, we appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Zach, let's wrap this baby up and you can get back to your holiday. What do you say?
It sounds, you know what? Maybe I don't want to go back to my holiday. Maybe I just want to hang out with you more.
Cool. Well, I'm going to go so you can keep recording. Yeah, okay. Thanks.
All right.
Till next time. My name's been Rodney.
My name's been Zach. Welcome to After Dark with me, where I just talk to you about whatever comes into my mind. Actually, let's not do that. Save that for bonus content.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, we'll see you at the Italian Grand Prix. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao. Oh, yeah.
Arrivederci. Prego. Grazie mille. Grazie, ragazzi.
I don't know who it is. I'm just going to do it. Oh, yeah.
Can you do it with an Italian accent?
No. I don't even know what that is.
What was that? It was like you got scared of doing the accent and then so decided not to do it, and then we're like, no, I'll do it in the no.
I thought it would be funny to say no, but not in an Italian accent, but then also couldn't pick another one. Just the word just fell out. Oh, fuck.
Okay.